Now let us see the different management approaches. Management approaches are classified into two types, that is early management approaches and modern management approach. Now we will see different early management approaches. These are psychological development, scientific management approach, administrative management, human relations management. Now let us see the first one, psychological development. In psychological development approach, what happened in olden days when there was no experience and knowledge of business, they had to depend on their inborn abilities. So every individual had to depend on their inborn abilities. This gave rise to management that was totally based on one's psychological process, that is one's own thinking thinking process and their own insights. So this made people to think that managers are born and cannot be made, such as a king, a poet, or an artist. So it was purely depend on one's own thinking process and not on standard procedures or well experimented processes. The another era which came, we call it as a scientific management. So why this scientific management came into picture is the efforts of scientists to demonstrate the application of science and scientific method made to undergo lot of experiments, right, on workers on different conditions before one can be declared as a standard approach to a particular method or particular production. So such various experiments were conducted. Frederick Taylor has been considered as a father of scientific management. Frederick Taylor conducted a lot of experiments on the workers and he observed various different movements made by the workers and he tried to eliminate all those unnecessary movements. So the different study made by Taylor was work study, differential payment, reorganization of supervision, scientific requirement and training. So now let us look into what was the work study he carried on the workers. Under the work study, what he did, Taylor observed that workers were not producing their full capacity for the fear that every piece rate in the sense, if there is a aim of producing 100 piece of products a day or some target products a day, he felt that if workers were having a fear that if that so much of pieces were produced large in number, then there is no demand for producing such pieces. So they always had a fear that the piece rate would be cut with a rise in production. Hence, he started time and motion study. He recorded the time required for each job of a motion of a job with the help of a stopwatch. He started observing the motion and how much time is required for particular job with the help of a stopwatch. And what he did, he eliminated all the unwanted motions under the work study. The next thing came into picture was the differential payment. So what Taylor did in this case was he introduced a differential payment method. Under this scheme, what he did, for a minimum production of certain pieces, every employee should get a minimum wage. But if a particular employer or worker produces some pieces more than what has been given as a target, he should be given some additional incentive. For what? To motivate the worker to produce more number of pieces. Then The other approach was reorganization of supervision. In this, what Taylor did was a supervisor should only allocate the work, and the workers under him should and plan to carry out the work properly, so that there is a more productive work. But somewhere even Taylor demonstrated that if everything is given to a worker, then definitely he will waste his time in making a plan for every particular work. So it is a job of the supervisor, where under him some of the workers will come. He has to plan the job, and immediately after assigning the job to a worker, the worker should carry out the work without wasting his time on planning, because which is already done by a supervisor. The other thing is scientific requirement and training. In this, Taylor suggested that there is a need for scientific training and development of a worker to carry out the specific work in a more productive way. He also believed that good cooperation between the management and the workers would lead to increased production and profits to both the sets of the people, that is management as well as the worker. So Taylor's concepts of scientific management were well accepted and practiced in almost all the industries. So now let us look at some of the objectives of the scientific management which was identified by Taylor. So some of the objectives are to earn a larger profit from a given expenditure on man and materials by minimizing waste work and waste movement. As I said, Taylor used to observe the workers' movement with the help of a stopwatch, and he eliminated all unwanted work, unwanted movements. So what he did, he wanted to earn a larger profit from a given expenditure by minimizing all the unwanted movements done by a worker. Then he insisted to provide healthy and safe working environment for every worker. He insisted to promote justice among workers by treating them as equal, to ensure happy and social life to worker. Another objective of scientific management is to perform planned and balanced operation. Operation should be planned and well balanced to complete it on time. These were some of the important observations of the scientific management, which was highly appreciated, because all these thing was all experimented by the observers with the help of different moments. Now let us look at administrative management. So in this administrative management, we understand there is a more focus on the term administration. So Henry Fayol is considered as the father of administrative management. His theory was focused on the development of administrative principles applicable to middle and top level managers. So what Henry Fayol did, he focused more on administrative, and he started using the word administration, which is used otherwise as a management nowadays. Even he wrote a book on that, which he explained the process of administration. His thinking was beyond a worker and a shop level production. His thinking more on common administration and managerial functions. Right? I hope you are getting my point. His focus more on top level managers than on the worker. He was more involved on managerial skills, and he even suggests that activity of any business organization should be divided into 6 groups, that is financial, technical, accounting, commercial, managerial and security. Even we apply his principles definitely in every organization. As you know, for in every organization there are different sectors for security, different sector for financial, different sector for technical, different sector for commercial. Likewise, in our own organization we are having different sector for security, right? There is some people who are specifically assigned for security, some people who are mainly dealing with the financial aspects of the organization, some people who are directly involved in teaching, some people who are only involved in managerial tasks. So every organization should be divided into different activities. And even Foyle had suggested some principles of management as a guideline to the process of management practice. Now let us look at some of the principles suggested by Fayol. Under Fayol's principles of management, he suggested that every management should have division of work. As we seen in the last slide, here in every organization there is a division of work, right? Common work are grouped together and they are made into different sectors or departments. There should be authority and responsibility, right? There should be proper authority given to the managers, and there should be responsibility taken by the individual to complete that particular task, whether it is a manager or it is a low level worker. There should be discipline. There should be common unity of direction towards a common goal. Subordination of individual interest to general interest. What I mean by individual interest to general interest, even though there is an individual interest in accomplishing a particular task, ultimately all are having a general interest, that is nothing but a common goal of an organization, right? Individual goals may differ from task to task, but there is a common goal for every organization. Union is strength. They said about unity among the people, whether it is a top management, middle management, or first line supervisors. There should be an initiative to take the new tasks. There should be equality. There should be order. There should be remuneration given for the works carried for different levels of management. Another early management approach we see that human relations movement. So before to this we saw different management approaches of psychological development. It can be scientific management, right? Under scientific management there are different studies carried out, like work study, differential payment, reorganization of supervision, scientific requirement and training, right? We saw administrative management. Under human relations management, what it was found that Taylor and Fayol's management techniques did not completely achieve the efficient production and harmony at workplace. Somewhere we observed that in Taylor and Fayol's management techniques, it was highly goal oriented, it was highly target oriented. The every moment of the worker was absorbed, right? And he was made to work efficiently. He was made to work in a more productive way, where we were giving very less importance to human relations, because we should not forget that ultimately a worker is a human, right? He is not a machine, he is a human. He should be properly treated as a in the workplace with a equality, with a lot of respect, giving value to his emotions. So what they observed in previous observation, the human relations was not so much identified, and that was highly made as task oriented. So Elton Mayo, right, he was again one of the management expert who conducted a series of experiments which are commonly known as Hawthorne experiments, right? What he did a series on experiments on some Western electric company, right, and classified those experiments as Hawthorne experiments. So what was the experiments did by him? They are illumination experiments, relay assembly test room, interviewing program, and bank wiring test room. So now let us see briefly what are these different tests conducted by him. In illumination experiments, what he observed that he made two different groups. In one room he kept a dim light, and another room he kept a very good amount of high quality light, and his intention was people will work more effectively in where the light is more brighter, and they will not work effectively where the light is dim. But it was found that in the two groups, when uh, the light was brighter, also there was good productivity, and when the light was dim, was also there was a good productivity. And he even observed that the intensity of light didn't affect the productivity, but when the light was made more dim than a normal day-to-day usage, then the productivity was decreased. But initially what he did, he kept one at normal and the other at more brighter, but that didn't affect the productivity. When he reduced the other group's light below the normal, then it affected the productivity. This was the observation made under illumination experiment. The next was relay assembly test room. What he did in this relay assembly test room, he involved some girls in that. He gave some activities to those people, along with some incentives and along with some rests in between. They were offered coffee, snacks, and they were allowed to go to home 4:30 initially instead of 5. Then they were allowed to go to home at 4 o'clock instead of 5. And they observed that when more relaxation was given to workers, rest was given to workers, the productivity was more. So some kind of experiments he conducted, and he observed how the productivity can be increased with that. The other approach was interviewing approach. So what he did, he collected around some 20,000 employees, and they started interviewing the employee, like with the help of direct question, like whether you like your supervisor or not, whether you like your co-worker or not. So initially what happened, when such questions, direct questions, were asked, workers usually ended up in answering yes or no. With only yes or no, they were not getting deep roots what was the exact reason. So what they did, they started the other approach of interviewing to people, and they collected a lot of inputs about the organization. The other approach was bank wiring test room. So in this, what was done was, there were a lot of equipments, and the workers had to connect the workers had to connect the So in this bank wiring testing room, some workers were given a task of connecting wires to the switches of the different equipments, and the intention was to observe that the highly efficient workers will pressurize the less efficient workers to work more. But this strategy did not work, because the highly efficient workers did not much pressurize the low efficient workers. So it has a different it came into a different strategy,